So now, you're in the American military, you spend a total of 11 years. What's your highest rank?
Lieutenant Commander.
You become a lieutenant commander in the United States Navy. And after 11 years, what do you decide to do next?
So after I did my training at Bethesda, part of it was interrupted by serving on the USS El Paso. We deployed to Somalia in Operation Restore Hope, which had a huge impact on me because it was an operational tour, and which allowed me to join the VFW.
You served in Somalia.
Served in Somalia. Then I was chief resident at Bethesda. And my last tour was as a physician to Congress for 2+ years.
So you were one of the doctors in charge of caring for the congressmen and women?
Yeah, so 545 members of Congress and the 9 Supreme Court justices, our office that included me and another junior internist and the Admiral.
How did this...
I know, it was just, I wish my grandfather had been alive. That was, if I did nothing else in my life, that was...
Did your father get to see this?
Oh, absolutely. He came to, and I got a Meritorious Service Medal at the end of that tour because there was a shooting that happened. You may remember Russell Weston Jr. shot his way into Tom DeLay's office, killing 3 Capitol Hill officers and Tom DeLay's security guard in the rotunda, which caused the entire creation of the visitor center and the security perimeter. Our medical office was right near that, and we were 911 response for that, and we tried to save the lives of the 3 that were killed.
Okay.
And
so
that
now,
was on July
after serving,
1998.
after caring for congressmen and women and Supreme Court justices, then what happens?
So then my father had been now in practice in Arizona. My parents moved to Arizona.
Oh, they moved to Arizona. Okay.
Yeah.
Why did they pick Arizona?
Part of it's weather, part of it's the opportunity in Phoenix for my dad, who had a specialty in nuclear cardiology, to join a large cardiac academic practice in Phoenix. So after I finished, his partner was nearing retirement. They had a large primary care element to their practice, so it was natural for and after having served in Congress, I was sort of at that halfway point, 11 years. You either do 20 years and retire, or decide to leave. And it was an opportunity for me to join my dad, which was just an irreplaceable experience.
And how old was your dad at that time?
He was 60. So.
So you became a junior partner.
Yeah.
What was your relationship like with your father and your mother? Were they more stoic people?
No, they're the typical Arabic, Mediterranean, be it Greek, Italian personality is very emotional, very a lot
but he had a hands-off approach with you in terms of who you were as an individual.
He really did. He was in many ways my hero. I feel like the fact that they left Syria was, as tough as it was for him, a blessing for me, and he taught me what to appreciate, what not to, to work hard, the work ethic that he had.
So now you joined the practice, then what happens?
So I took over the primary care aspect of the practice, and basically my wife, the most important part of my life we didn't talk about was I had met my wife in 1998 while I was still in the Navy.
You were in the Navy. How old were you?
I was 30 years old.
You were 30 years old,
yeah.
And you met your wife when you're in the Navy. How do you meet your wife?
My cousin was doing his cardiology fellowship at Cleveland Clinic and knew her father very well, and very traditional Muslim way of meeting.
And she's
had
Muslim?
A blind date. She's Muslim.
You met on a blind date?
We did. So I
now,
flew
what
into
is a
Cleveland.
Muslim blind date like?
It's the pejorative
it doesn't
is that
have anything to do with Tinder? Or?
No. The pejorative is that people think we have arranged marriages. No, it's just people you trust in your family introduce you.
Yeah.
And we met.
Okay.
In my book, A Battle for the Soul of Islam, I talk about years of looking for the right person. When I met Gada.
Were you relatively sure when you met her early on that she might well be the right one?
I was so sure that I actually met her and then did not call her back for like 2 years, which sounds stupid. It was the stupidest
sounds
thing.
counterintuitive.
Yeah, the
I don't
stupidest
know
thing
if
I've ever done in my life.
Okay,
but
so
I knew
you
this was
meet
the right
her.
girl. Yeah.
You meet her. You have a terrific night.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, weekend. I spent 2 days with her and her family. And
you had a terrific time, and you're telling me that the next Couple of days you didn't call her?
I gave her my military email, which I guess I wrote wrong, and she tried to communicate with me, and I never got that communication. And then I just
And
said,
you didn't
"This is."
follow up?
She's so wonderful, so compassionate. I thought, gosh, I can't keep communicating with this girl unless I'm sure this is, unless, you know, I don't want to hurt her.
And you had no contact with her for 2 years?
2 years.
How old was she? You were 30.
She was 23.
23 years
Yeah.
old. And you had no contact with her?
No.
None. Well, this is a high-risk strategy, Doctor.
It wasn't a strategy. It was idiocy. It was immaturity.
It was immaturity.
It was, yeah.
Okay.
And 2 years later, still in the Navy.
You're 32 years old. It's 2 years later. You haven't talked to this woman in 2 years. Presumably you had done some dating. Presumably she had done some dating. Then what happens?
I called her back.
You picked
And
up
I
the
said,
phone.
"Remember me?"
Yeah.
She said, "Yeah."
Yeah.
I said, "Would you still consider meeting me again?" And you know, I
Did
told her.
she say what happened?
Yeah, she did.
And you had no. How did you answer?
I said, "You know, I just wasn't ready.
I just
And
wasn't ready.
I didn't want to."
Which, by the way, is a very vulnerable answer.
Yeah.
I just wasn't ready. And anyway, you asked to see her. You saw her again.
Yep.
Then what happened?
Then I saw her almost every weekend for a few months, and asked her to marry me. And
After how long?
Probably 3-4 months of dating.
Now that strikes, I think, I know it strikes me, but I think it would strike most Americans as awfully quick. Is that more common in a kind of traditional Muslim?
Yeah, I think it's a conservative Muslim approach in that dating is not something to be done casually. It's a respectful, equal relationship in folks that are courting for marriage.
So
and that if you're
after-
serious, you either decide to get married or you don't. It's not a casual thing that's done
And after
disrespectfully.
this 4-month period, you ask her to marry, she agrees?
She did. She did. It was on Thanksgiving then that we had
And
our
she
engagement.
is at
Case Western.
25,
Yeah,
26?
24.
24. Where do you get married?
In Phoenix. So
Okay.
we flew into Phoenix, got married in my military gear, and my admiral from Congress had come in for the wedding. A couple members of Congress that I took care of were there.
Did her parents have similar views about America as your parents? Gratitude, those type of feelings? Similar. It doesn't have to be
It's
identical.
close. It really was. She certainly did. You know, I remember doing the blind dating thing for 10 years. And some families I'd walk in and they got pictures of themselves and Bashar Assad. And I'd be in the house for 5 minutes and couldn't find a way to get out of there faster than Flynn.
I'm imagining that when you walk into a home and you see a photograph of a family member with Assad, that the only equivalent thing for an American mind would be to see a picture of Hitler or Saddam Hussein. Is that emotionally about?
That's the way my family viewed it. And the amazing thing to me is I would quickly jump to the chase and ask him, well, what is this?
Well, what's this?
And he'd be like, oh, this was the Arab Medical Group. When we went to Damascus, the government took a picture. We're not politically involved. And most of the Syrians, this is what's so odd to me, and I could never understand, is the Cuban American community, for example, you never see them. They're very anti-Castro.
Very.
And yet for decades, the Syrian American community, up until the revolution, 1 out of 9 were actually working intelligence for the Assad regime. And many, because they wanted to travel back and forth, that's the excuse they gave, would actually be sympathetic to the regime and even sometimes vote in their elections.
One possible answer to what you just said, it's outrageous, is, look, Michael, you offer people money, they'll do just about anything for money.
A lot of it's economic.
A lot of it's economic.
Yep, they have houses there, because you lose all your economics if you're against the regime.
Yeah.
And I can tell you one of the things which my grandfather taught me, anyone of any significant wealth since 1963 in Syria has some connection to the regime. There's no, it's a socialist, oppressive environment.
The thing that people must assess as they're thinking about these topics, it's very hard in the comfort of an air-conditioned American home to think about what they would do if they were in a similar setting. A starving dog will eat a lot of things that, if you're hungry enough and you're scared enough, you'll do a lot of things that you wouldn't normally do.
I mean, I wish my parents, though, were alive, my dad and my grandparents, to see the revolution that finally happened. Because when my parents left their nationalism of Syria, they didn't only leave it, they said, the hell with it. Mm-hmm. They said,
that's why I asked you the
this people deserves
question.
the government they have, because they're wondering, tons of the folks that tried to reform ended up in prison, ended up tortured. Brothers reported on other brothers. Mm-hmm. So the tribal system, and now we see what's happening in this revolution, it's been hijacked by radical Islamists.